in our addictions, we attract people who feed our addictions or who confront them, and spirits who feed our addictions or who confront them. Okay? Don't we? When we go numb, what do we attract?
Spirits and people.
Spirits who basically want to just take over our entire life, and people who want to take over our entire life. That's what we attract. So what is the more dangerous thing? I don't know, but I feel that's pretty dangerous and that's pretty dangerous. From God's perspective, if you choose to feel that properly, like really own your feelings, if you choose to feel your pain, that is the least dangerous option in terms of what will happen in your future through law of attraction. But none of us believe that. We believe that it is the most dangerous option. Why do we believe that? Because in our childhood, that was our experience. So we believe it because it was our experience as a child. But if you think about it, as a child, we did not have a full exercise of our free will because our parents and others controlled our will. Now, as an adult, we have free will. As a child, we couldn't remove ourselves from our family. We couldn't remove ourselves from the negative projections of our family. But as an adult, we can. Even if it's temporary, we can do it. Right? Can you see that many of us are still thinking as children? This is what happens with these childlike beliefs that get established before our brain has developed, is that we finish up feeling as a child feels even though we're in an adult body. We still think the same way as we thought then. We still feel the same way as we felt then. And that's because we've not released any of those beliefs from ourselves. So we carry them around. So basically, most of us are children in an adult's body, thinking that we have no way to get away when we do, thinking that we have no way to a degree, control our experience of release, but we do, because we're an adult now. We do. We have some way. We have some self-determination now, whereas when we were a child we had none, or very little. So many of our belief systems are still like we're a child still. We're still thinking like we're 3-year-olds in a lot of ways with regard to our emotional experience. And that's understandable given the fact that these emotions are still within us. So if we look at those three things that Mary brought up, of pain, pleasure, basically we could call the other one, shall we? And numb, right, those three, can you see where you're choosing to go? The majority of the time. Reflect upon it. Where are you choosing to go the majority of the time? The majority of us will find that we're always trying to seek for pleasure or be numb. Most of us have a deep avoidance of our true pain. Now, if we look at some of our most painful emotions, and this is why it's hard to get a start on the way to God. The reason why it's hard to get a start on the way to God is that our most painful emotional experiences are going to be the first ones we feel. Right? For many of us, that's the case. And of course, the way God's made it is that actually right at the end you'll feel your most painful ones, but you believe that your first ones are going to be most painful, and for the majority of people that's how it works out, because they find that most of these reasons why they want their addictions are all related to childhood beliefs. And giving up childhood beliefs are some of the most difficult beliefs to ever give up. Will you think of just a simple belief like Christmas? Childhood belief. Most people learn that Santa Claus comes through your chimney and leaves you a present and a stocking, under the fireplace if you've got one. And most of us believe that 2, 3, 4, 5 years of age. And then some child at school tells us that's not true. How many How many parents even get angry with that child, telling their child that it's not true? The deconstruction of a myth, there's a lot of general rage about. Right? Why? Because childhood beliefs we often feel as the most painful sets of beliefs. And they often are the most painful sets of beliefs. They are born before we even had an intellectual ability to evaluate them. And so they are going to be quite emotional. And this is why many people still teach their own children as an adult that Santa Claus comes through the chimney. They actually lie to their child. They'd rather do that than deconstruct their link inside of their own child to that belief. Even though they know intellectually they know it's wrong now, but they still want their child to believe it. It's pretty weird, eh? Wanting your child to believe something false because it brings you pleasure rather than pain. That's the only reason why. Right? And this is what we do with most of our childhood beliefs. Even once we realise they are a myth in our mind, we still continue to perpetrate them in our feelings. Isn't that interesting? So even our mind doesn't deconstruct the false belief. And this is why a lot of the painful false beliefs of our childhood are going to have to be released, but there's only one way they can be released. They can't be released by you telling yourself something different. And this is what many of you are trying to do. You're trying to tell yourself something different. Many of you don't have faith in God. You don't have faith in emotion. You don't have faith that anything like that will actually work. You don't. We need to be honest about that and say we just don't. Our emotional experience from the childhood belief systems are that as a child we had an experience which tends to suggest to us, and often violently suggests to us, that it's impossible to feel your emotions without having danger, violence, pain, suffering, and many other things that we will continue to attract for the rest of our life. Most of us believe that. We believe it in our heart. The only way that belief is going to leave us is to feel it. It's the only way it can leave us. It's not going to leave you just by trying to accept a different belief in your mind. It can't leave you that way. It's not going to. The only way a childhood belief is released is by feeling the belief. Right? And that is the problem. The problem we have is that most of these childhood beliefs we totally believe are true. So why would you go and feel them? Why would you go and feel them to release them? We totally believe they're true. And it's not, and so somebody can come along and tell you, look, your whole life will change if you let go of these beliefs. And you go, no, it won't. Don't be stupid. How can my whole life change? This is reality of the universe we live in. This is reality of the world we live in. This is what it's like. You're telling me that it's not? Do you live in some kind of la la land? So of course now even when we had the media come to us, now they say one of the titles was Meeting Jesus and Mary in La La Land. But the reality is the majority of us feel that I'm in La La Land, actually. The majority of you feel it in your soul. Does that make sense? Because your belief systems are telling you completely the opposite of what I'm telling you. And that's why you don't believe. So you can tell yourself that it all sounds nice. You can come along because it all sounds nice. But at the end of the day, you feel more and more blocked up, more stagnant, more blocked up, because the only way forward is going to be to feel these childhood beliefs. And sometimes when you feel them, you're also going to feel the age in which they were constructed. Do you realise that? Sometimes when you start feeling about one of the childhood beliefs, like for example, the childhood belief that you will get punished if you cry. That childhood belief. You feel that childhood belief, and while you're feeling it, you will probably feel that you're going to get hurt. Even as an adult, you're going to feel that someone will come along and hurt you for crying. Make sense? Now, I reckon we're going to have to do a battery swap. Just let me do that. Okay. So does everyone get what I'm saying there? How important this process is to actually feel your childhood beliefs. So you want to feel your actual childhood beliefs and not the ones you want to have now. Right? So many of you, because you have this, you've heard a lot of divine truth now, right? You've heard a lot about the theories of divine truth, is probably the way I'd like to say it to you. Because as yet, for many of you, it's not practice, it's not something that's happening inside of your soul because of this problem, actually. Because there's an unwillingness to feel the childhood beliefs. But if you think about it, the only way that you can progress forward now is not by listening to more divine truth. That's not going to help you progress forward. The thing that will help you progress forward is to feel some of these childhood beliefs that you have, that you sincerely believe are true. Beliefs that I'm saying to you are not actually true. Does that make sense? Allow yourself to feel them, these beliefs that you have. That's all that's required. When you feel a belief to completion, it disappears from you. You see, these beliefs are trapped emotion within your soul. And any time you trap an emotion in your soul, it determines your belief systems. So if you think about it from this perspective, if this is you, the person, your body, right? There's a flow of energy that flows through your body. But when you have a certain belief system that's out of harmony with love, it's like a ball of emotion that gets trapped somewhere in your body. Does that make sense? So let's say it's the belief system that I am worthless. Because that's what my parents taught me. That's a belief system of my childhood. That is like a trapped feeling in my body. Now, any energy and any experience that comes to me will pass through me and hit that belief. And that belief will colour every single experience. And not only that, the way God's made the law is that we will attract events to help us trigger that particular emotion that exists there as well. So that means that not only does any experience make us feel that we're worthless, but we are going to attract experiences that make us feel like we're worthless so that we can release the emotion, right? Now, if this emotional blockage here is released and it was caused when I was 3 years old, then I'm probably going to be feeling 3 years old when I feel it. Right? Because it's a trapped emotional experience. It's a trapped feeling of that age that was created by an experience. So when you feel it, you will feel the experience and probably in the end the age of the experience through the process. Now, this trapped emotion is what blocks us from any different truth from entering us. So you can tell yourself over and over, you can tell your mind, I am worth something, I am worth something, I am worth something. But as soon as somebody treats you a certain way, you go, you're treating me like I'm worthless, and you're angry and everything. Why is that? Because you actually feel you're worthless, otherwise you wouldn't get so angry, right? Automatically, we revert to the emotion, automatically. Because whatever you tell your mind is not going to change you. Now, we have historical proof of this single fact. You look at almost every religious faith almost says it was constructed for the point of love, right? And yet, when you look at the results of most religious faiths, what do you see? Violence instead. You look at the history of the Christian religion, mostly violent. The history of the Muslim religion, mostly violent. The history of most religions are mostly violent. Right? And the reason for that is that we have these beliefs in us that all we've got to do is trigger them, and whatever was in our mind, so you can even have a Buddhist belief that, you should love everybody and zen out and love everybody, but as soon as the emotion is triggered, bang, you don't love anybody anymore. You feel angry and you want to kill somebody. And this is this is the problem with this concept that you can change your mind. Your mind is only capable of changing when there is no emotional impediment to the change. And while you have a soul-based belief system in your soul that's existed from the time of 2, 3, 4 years of age, nothing you tell your mind is going to get to your soul about that particular belief if it's contrary. The only way for change to occur, even in your own mind, is that belief system is rubbed out from your soul by experiencing it. When we start experiencing it, we start dribbling it out. Oops, that looks a bit like a wee there. We start dribbling it out, right? And when we dribble the emotion out, we are now in the process of changing the belief. Right? And once you imagine, as you dribble it out, obviously the emotion starts coming out, and more of it comes out, and eventually it disappears. Once it disappears, if somebody tells you you are worthy, can you see your mind now has the capacity to absorb it? But not only does your mind have the capacity to absorb it, now your soul has the capacity to absorb it. Because there is not an opposing emotion within your soul. Does it make sense? Right? Now, so the only way we can progress forward is by feeling the false belief of our childhood, which we believe is true. That's the only way to progress forward. That is what the majority of people who have heard divine truth are not doing. They hear divine truth and they go, so I've got to tell myself that I'm worthy. But God's way is, feel that you're unworthy first, and then you'll be able to tell yourself you're worthy, and it will actually enter you. Does that make sense? So we're trying to skip over the unworthy feeling because it's, as was pointed out earlier, it's painful. So in our attempt to avoid our pain, we only want to feel good or we want to be numb. We don't want to feel the pain. But the emotional belief that I'm unworthy is a painful emotional belief. So instead of feeling that pain, we tell ourselves the way to change is to not feel that pain, which results in the pain remaining within our soul, like a big black gooey muck in this case, right? It remains within our soul, and we tell ourselves that it's going to be too painful to experience that emotion. But the problem is, no matter what belief system enters us, it will never fully enter us, because it cannot while that opposite belief exists. That opposite belief will determine everything that happens. And you can listen to divine truth for 20 years and you will make no change unless you choose to experience some of this childhood pain. No change can actually happen. Yeah? Mary?